When he gave the alien woman a gift, she responded in a way he never expected. The boundary engineer Torin Neves adjusted the gravity calibrators on Neptune Orbital Station Epsilon with practiced precision. Outside the viewport, the azure planet swirled beneath him, its storms creating mesmerizing patterns that had become the backdrop of his solitary life. At 34, he had chosen this posting specifically for its isolation. Fewer people meant fewer complications. "Boundary integrity at 98%, Mr. Neves," announced the station AI. "The Viridian delegation arrives in 20 minutes. Torin sighed, setting down his tools. The Viridian Alliance was the newest and most tenuous of Earth's interstellar relationships. After decades of silent observation, the purple-skinned telepaths had finally initiated contact 3 years ago. Their technological advancements were legendary, their emotional detachment infamous. "Acknowledged," he replied, straightening his uniform. As the station's boundary engineer, his job was primarily maintaining the artificial atmosphere and gravity fields, not diplomacy. Yet command had insisted all senior personnel greet the visitors. The docking bay hummed with nervous energy when he arrived. Captain Lin nodded tersely as he took his place in the receiving line. "Remember," she whispered, "no sudden movements, no physical contact, and absolutely no jokes."
"Their telepathy doesn't translate humor." The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss.
3 tall figures entered, moving with unsettling grace. Their skin shimmered with various shades of purple, from pale lavender to deep amethyst. Torin found himself staring at the smallest of the 3, whose skin bore intricate patterns like constellations beneath her surface. "I am Lyria, scientific liaison of the Viridian High Council," she announced, her voice melodious despite its flatness. Her eyes, entirely silver with no visible pupils, scanned the humans methodically. When her gaze reached Torin, he felt a peculiar sensation, like fingers gently rifling through his thoughts. He instinctively strengthened his mental barriers, a technique all station personnel had been trained in. One delicate eyebrow rose slightly on her forehead. "Interesting," she murmured almost to herself. The formal introductions proceeded with practiced diplomatic precision. Afterward, Captain Lin assigned Torin as Lyria's guide to the engineering sections. The Viridians had expressed particular interest in human boundary field technology. "Your thoughts have unusual patterns," Lyria said when they were alone in the corridor. "Most humans project emotions chaotically. Yours are contained." Torin maintained his professional demeanor. "I appreciate my privacy." "Privacy," she repeated the word as if tasting it. "A concept Viridians find unnecessary given our natural connectivity." For the next 3 hours, Torin explained the station's systems. Lyria absorbed information with remarkable speed, occasionally asking questions that revealed how far advanced Viridian technology truly was. "Your methods are inefficient but creative," she concluded as their tour ended. "I would like to continue our discussions tomorrow." That night, alone in his quarters, Torin found himself sketching her distinctive facial patterns in his journal, something he hadn't done since art school before engineering claimed his career. There was something about her analytical curiosity that resonated with him, despite the vast differences between their species. He didn't realize then that this was merely the beginning, that his orderly, solitary existence was about to become wonderfully, terrifyingly complicated. On the forgotten melody, over the following weeks, Torin found himself looking forward to Lyria's visits to the engineering section. Her questions grew increasingly nuanced, extending beyond mere technical curiosity to the philosophy behind human design choices. Despite her species' reputation for emotional detachment, Torin noticed subtle shifts in her demeanor, a slight tilt of her head when intrigued, the way her fingers would occasionally drum against surfaces when processing new information. "Your species builds inefficiently," she observed one afternoon, as they inspected the quantum relays. "You could achieve 43% greater efficiency with crystalline matrices." "Perhaps," Torin replied, making adjustments to a power coupling. "But crystalline systems can't be repaired by hand in emergency situations. Sometimes inefficiency serves a purpose, resilience." Lyria's silver eyes studied him. "You prefer independence to optimization." "I suppose I do," he admitted, suddenly aware of how personal the conversation had become. That evening, returning to his quarters, Torin pulled out an old family heirloom, a small spherical device his grandmother had given him before he left Earth. It was antique technology, a holographic music projector programmed with songs from his childhood. When activated, it created a small three-dimensional light display that danced to the melody. His grandmother had called it a memory sphere, a way to carry home among the stars. Torin rarely activated it, preferring to keep the past at a safe distance. But something about Lyria's curiosity about humans stirred a desire to share. The next day, he found Lyria analyzing atmospheric readings in the laboratory. The other Viridians had returned to their ship, leaving her to complete the scientific exchange. "I brought you something," Torin said, feeling uncharacteristically nervous. "It's not technical or particularly useful, but it's human." He placed the small sphere on the table between them. Lyria studied it with scientific interest. "A data storage device?" "Something like that. It's a memory sphere. It stores music and projects visual patterns that correspond to the sounds." He activated it with a touch. The sphere illuminated, projecting a gentle swirl of blues and greens while his grandmother's favorite lullaby filled the room. The melody was simple, haunting, a song about starlight guiding travelers home. Torin expected Lyria to analyze it clinically. Instead, he watched in astonishment as her purple skin began to shimmer with points of light, like stars appearing in twilight. Her silver eyes widened, pupils suddenly visible as dark centers in the metallic irises. "What is happening?" she whispered, her voice trembling. She raised her hands before her face, watching the patterns of light move beneath her skin in rhythm with the music. I feel. A single tear traced down her cheek, a shimmering droplet that caught the light like a diamond. "Lyria?" Torin stepped forward, concerned. "This sensation," she said, her voice filled with wonder and fear. "It's overwhelming, like a memory I never knew I had." Her hands trembled as she reached toward the sphere. "My species, we weren't always as we are now. This music, it's awakening something." Without warning, she stood and fled the room, leaving Torin staring after her in confusion. The sphere continued playing its gentle melody to an empty room. It was 3 days before he saw her again. Torin had almost reported the incident when she appeared at his quarters during night cycle, her normally immaculate appearance slightly disheveled. "I've been researching," she said without preamble. "Studying our oldest archives. Our species chose to suppress emotional responses centuries ago, after wars that nearly destroyed our civilization. We developed telepathic abilities as logical communication channels, but the price was our emotional depth." Her silver eyes held his. "Your music bypassed those suppressions. No Viridian has wept in 800 years. Torin stood frozen, suddenly understanding the magnitude of what his simple gift had triggered. "I didn't know. I'm sorry if I've caused problems. Don't apologize," Lyria interrupted, stepping closer. "I need to understand this feeling. Will you help me?" Forbidden Resonance, the Viridian delegation extended their stay on Neptune Station, ostensibly to complete their scientific surveys. In reality, it was Lyria's insistence that delayed their departure. She created a meticulous research schedule that required her to spend hours each day with Torin, exploring what she formerly termed human emotional response mechanisms. Away from her fellow Viridians, Lyria's transformation was remarkable. The memory sphere became their starting point, a tool that unlocked centuries of suppressed emotional capacity. Together, they explored different music, art, and literature, cataloging her responses with scientific precision that gradually gave way to genuine enjoyment. "What do you call this sensation?" she asked one evening as they sat in the observation dome, Neptune's swirling storms creating a peaceful backdrop. She placed her hand over her chest. "It's like gravity has increased only here." "Longing, perhaps," Torin suggested. "Or anticipation." "Fascinating." Her skin rippled with lavender patterns. "And this?" She shifted closer until their shoulders almost touched. Torin's voice caught in his throat. "That might be attraction." Her silver eyes studied his face with newfound intensity. "Viridians connect minds, not bodies," she said softly. "Yet I find myself wondering about both." As weeks passed, their relationship deepened in ways neither had anticipated. Torin shared stories of his childhood on Earth, his decision to seek solitude among the stars, the family he'd left behind. Lyria revealed the rigid structure of Viridian society, their collective consciousness that valued logic above all else. If my people discovered what's happening to me, I would be recalled immediately for reconditioning, she confessed. Emotional contamination is considered the gravest threat to our society. But secrets were difficult to maintain on a space station. Captain Lin noticed the time they spent together and called Torin to her office. The Alliance Security Office is asking questions, she said bluntly. They're concerned about technology transfers. Your relationship with the Viridian is professional, Torin interrupted. Lin's expression remained skeptical.
See that it stays that way.
Remember the diplomatic protocols. Emotional entanglements with telepathic species are expressly forbidden. Meanwhile, Lyria faced increasing scrutiny from her own delegation. Arvin, the Viridian ambassador, confronted her after observing subtle changes in her telepathic patterns. Your thoughts contain disturbing irregularities, he stated coldly. You've been isolating yourself from our collective consciousness. My research requires focus, Lyria replied carefully. Research does not explain the emotional echoes we detect, Arvin said. I've requested a scientific review team from Homeworld. They arrive in 3 days. That night, Lyria came to Torin's quarters in distress. The review team will detect everything, she explained. They'll scan my neural patterns and discover what your music has awakened. Torin paced the small room. We could explain that it was accidental. They won't understand accidents. Viridian society is built on control and predictability. Her skin darkened with emotion. What I'm experiencing would be classified as degeneration, not growth. Against all regulations, Torin took her hand. Instead of pulling away, Lyria intertwined her fingers with his, their differing anatomies fitting together perfectly. The simple touch sent electricity through them both. There's something else, she whispered, stepping closer. Something I've never told anyone. I've always been different. Even before your music, I experienced echoes of emotions. It's why I became a liaison, to study other species, to understand what was wrong with me. Not wrong, Torin said fiercely. Just different. Their first kiss was hesitant, exploratory. Two beings from different worlds discovering new territory together. Lyria's skin illuminated with patterns of light that filled the darkened room, physical manifestation of emotions long suppressed. I'm afraid, she admitted afterward, resting her head against his chest. Not just of my people's reaction, but of these feelings. They're so powerful, so consuming. I know, Torin replied, holding her close. That's what makes them worth the risk. Neither of them noticed the security camera in the corner of the room, its indicator light blinking steadily as it transmitted their forbidden encounter to both human and Viridian authorities. Eyeing the separation protocol, the summons arrived simultaneously. Torin to Captain Lin's office, Lyria to the Viridian ship. They exchanged one desperate glance in the corridor before being escorted in opposite directions by stern-faced security personnel. Boundary Engineer Neves. You are hereby relieved of duty pending investigation, Captain Lin announced the moment her office door closed behind them. Her expression was a mixture of disappointment and concern. The Diplomatic Security Council has classified your interactions with the Viridian liaison as a Level 2 breach of protocol. Torin stood rigidly at attention. Captain, I can explain. Save it. Lin activated a holographic display showing Torin and Lyria in his quarters, their embrace casting intricate patterns of light across the walls. This isn't just about fraternization. The Viridians have accused us of deliberate emotional contamination, a form of cultural sabotage. That's absurd, Torin protested. I shared music with her. Nothing more. They're claiming the memory sphere contains psychoactive frequencies designed to disrupt Viridian neural pathways. Lin sighed heavily. Ambassador Arvin has demanded your detainment and formal censure. The Viridian ship departs in 6 hours, with Lyria aboard. She's being returned to their homeworld for what they call purification procedures. The words struck Torin like physical blows. Purification? They're going to erase her memories, her emotions. That's their internal affair, Lin replied firmly. Our priority is preventing an interspecies diplomatic disaster. Meanwhile, aboard the Viridian vessel, Lyria faced a tribunal of 3 elders, their silver eyes reflecting no light as they probed her mind. Subject Lyria exhibits severe emotional contamination, stated Elder Mavis, the chief scientist. Her neural patterns show dangerous irregularities consistent with primitive emotional states. I am not contaminated, Lyria argued, struggling to maintain composure as they methodically dismantled her mental barriers. I've recovered something our species lost, our capacity for connection beyond mere thought. Such rhetoric confirms the depth of corruption, Ambassador Arvin concluded. Prepare a stasis chamber for transport. The purification process must begin immediately upon our return. Through their invasive telepathic link, Lyria caught fragments of their unspoken concerns, fear that her condition might spread, that emotional awakening could destabilize their entire society. Beneath these thoughts, she sensed something else, a conspiracy involving certain Viridian factions who sought to sabotage the human alliance altogether. Using techniques she'd learned from Torin about mental compartmentalization, she managed to shield this discovery from the Elder's probing. Back in his quarters under house arrest, Torin frantically searched for options. The memory sphere sat on his desk, still playing its gentle melody, now a painful reminder of what he stood to lose. His terminal access had been restricted, communication channels blocked. A soft chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Imani Chen, the station's xenobiologist and Torin's only real friend on Epsilon, stood outside with a medical case. Mandatory health evaluation for all personnel involved in the incident, she announced loudly for the benefit of the security cameras, before whispering, I have 17 minutes before the system flags an irregularity. Once inside, she quickly disabled the room's surveillance with a medical override. Lyria contacted me through the Science Division's private channel, Imani explained rapidly. She discovered something in the Elders' minds. The emotional suppression isn't just cultural. It's artificially maintained through quantum frequency inhibitors implanted in all Viridians at birth. Torin frowned. What does that mean? It means your grandmother's lullaby happened to resonate at exactly the frequency needed to temporarily disable Lyria's inhibitor, Imani replied, opening her medical case to reveal a small device. It also means the Viridians have been lying to us. Their delegation came here to assess humanity as a threat, precisely because we still experience emotions naturally. She handed Torin the device, a modified neural transmitter. This will get you access to the maintenance tunnels connecting to their docking bay. You have exactly 4 hours before their departure, Lyria said to bring the memory sphere. She needs it to prove the truth to her people. Torin stared at the transmitter. This is treason, Imani. She met his gaze steadily. Maybe, or maybe it's preventing an interstellar war. Lyria believes some Viridian factions are pushing for humanity's containment, using our emotional instability as justification. After she left, Torin sat motionless, weighing decades of disciplined service against the impossible connection he'd found with Lyria. The memory sphere continued playing, his grandmother's voice singing about starlight guiding travelers home. His decision made itself. Harmonies between worlds. The maintenance tunnels beneath Neptune Station Epsilon formed a labyrinthine network rarely accessed by anyone except repair drones. Torin moved silently through them, using his engineer's credentials on the few operational checkpoints. The neural transmitter Imani had provided masked his life signs from the station's internal sensors. His heart pounded as he approached the sealed bulkhead separating station infrastructure from the Viridian docking bay. According to the schematics Imani had loaded into his portable terminal, a narrow maintenance shaft bypassed the main security barriers. The memory sphere, safely tucked in an insulated pouch, provided an odd comfort as he navigated the tight passage. For a moment he questioned his sanity, risking his career, possibly his freedom, for someone from another species he'd known barely 2 months. Yet in those months, he'd felt more alive than in all his years of self-imposed isolation. The shaft opened into an auxiliary cargo area adjacent to the Viridian ship. Torin crouched behind a stack of containers, surveying the scene. 2 purple-skinned guards stood at the vessel's entrance ramp, their posture unnaturally still. A soft telepathic whisper brushed against his consciousness. 3rd loading bay, maintenance access panel. Lyria's voice unmistakable even in his mind. Following her guidance, Torin found the panel and slipped inside the Viridian ship. The interior pulsed with bioluminescent light in patterns that seemed almost alive. He navigated through curving corridors until reaching a small medical chamber. Lyria was inside, connected to monitoring equipment that displayed her neural patterns in three-dimensional projections. When she saw him, her skin brightened with patterns he now recognized as joy. "You came," she whispered, disconnecting herself from the equipment. "Always," he replied, helping her to her feet. "I brought the sphere." Lyria took it reverently. "We have minutes at most before they detect your presence. The elders are preparing the stasis chamber for my transport." "Imani told me about the inhibitors," Torin said. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I only confirmed it myself when they examined me." She placed her hand against his cheek. "Our history has been altered, Torin. We weren't always like this. The inhibitors were implemented after a civilization-threatening war. But what began as a temporary solution became permanent control." She activated the memory sphere, but instead of playing it, she connected it to the ship's medical scanner. The frequency pattern in this music matches precisely the resonance needed to disable the neural inhibitors. Not coincidentally, it's because human music evolved naturally along emotional pathways similar to ancient Viridian harmonics. The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Lyria worked faster, transferring data between systems. "What exactly are you doing?" Torin asked, positioning himself at the door. "Broadcasting," she replied, eyes fixed on the controls. The elders maintain their control through information suppression. "If enough Viridians learn the truth," her fingers danced across the interface. "There, it's done." The door slid open to reveal Ambassador Arvin, flanked by security personnel. "Sabotage," he stated coldly. "The human has corrupted our systems as well as our liaison." "Not corruption, Arvin. Liberation." Lyria stepped forward, skin glowing with determination. "I've transmitted Grandmother Neves's lullaby throughout the ship on a carrier wave that will temporarily disable all neural inhibitors. Everyone aboard will feel, truly feel, for the first time in their lives." Around them, the ship trembled as though alive. Through the corridor windows, Torin saw Viridians throughout the vessel stopping, touching their heads, their faces expressing confusion, wonder, and fear. "You've doomed us all," Arvin whispered, but his voice lacked conviction as his own inhibitor began failing, emotional patterns flickering beneath his purple skin. "I've saved us," Lyria countered. "The alliance was never meant to be between emotionless telepaths and emotional humans. It was meant to be between two species who understand the full spectrum of consciousness." The following hours unfolded in chaos and revelation. As inhibitors failed throughout the ship, centuries of suppressed emotions surfaced. Some Viridians reacted with panic, others with unexpected joy. The conspiracy Lyria had detected fractured as its architects experienced emotional awakening themselves. Captain Lin, alerted to the situation, arrived with a security team to find not hostility, but a transformed Viridian delegation, one requesting emergency diplomatic talks of an entirely different nature. 3 days later, Torin and Lyria stood together in Neptune Station's observation dome. Outside, the gas giant storms painted swirls of blue and turquoise across the vastness of space. "The Provisional Council has requested I remain as head liaison," Lyria said, her hand intertwined with his. "They believe my experience with emotional integration makes me uniquely qualified to guide our transition." "And the inhibitors?" Torin asked. "Being modified, not removed," she explained. "They were designed for control, but reprogrammed. They can help manage the emotional surge until our people learn natural regulation." Her silver eyes met his. "It will take generations to fully recover what we lost, but we've begun the journey." Torin activated the memory sphere, his grandmother's lullaby filling the space between them. "And us? What happens now?" Lyria's skin illuminated with patterns he'd come to recognize as love. Constellations of light mapping the connection between them. "Now we build a bridge," she said softly. "Not just between two people from different stars, but between worlds that have forgotten how to feel." As Neptune turned slowly beneath them, they watched the Viridian ship prepare for departure, not carrying secrets of suppression back to their homeworld, but bearing instead the gift of a simple human melody that had awakened emotions across the stars. Torin held Lyria close as the music played on. In his grandmother's lullaby about starlight guiding travelers home, he finally understood the truest meaning of home wasn't a place at all. It was connection, wherever in the vast universe it might be found.